You guys notice how you can go a whole year without bathing? Well, way to relate to your audience, Atlas. Hello, and welcome to a video where I just sort of fanboy over the art style of Persona 5. So if you're looking for objective truth, come in, sit down, have a drink. You're in the right place. I'd figured I'd start with the opening, as it's the first taste of what the game's colour palette will have to offer. Right off the bat, you'll be able to tell that you're either bleeding from your monochromatic eye holes, or that white, black, and red are the key colours for this game. The black and white shows the city in a drab manner, with a shade of red coloured over it. This could either be the ruin that lurks over the city, as people are shown to be slowly letting go of their free will in order to be free of its conundrums, or it could be the phantom thieves' gaze from above the city, looking below to battle the next source of corruption. The characters are mostly outlined in black and white too, but with a few splashes of colour, with the most common one being red. The characters blend into the city with their shading, but the splashes of colour distinguish them from the rest of the city's mindset. They oppose it, standing in contrast to differ, but often concealed. Take Ryuji's stark yellow hair, Yusuke's red paint, or the protagonist's own red eyes. Now that was just the opening. This colour set is everywhere in the menus and battle screens. Persona 3 and 4 basically modelled their aesthetic from their blue and yellow hues respectively, but Persona 5 turns their aesthetic up a notch by making it dynamic. Whenever a character speaks, the movement of the speech bubble and the bouncing white tick is something akin to a comic slide. Again, when the characters are emphasised in emotion, they tear through the screen like paper, and gives a close-up of them in the same kind of way. To top it off, this comic style is melded with a subtle detail that makes static images seem all the more mobile and almost film-like, in that the camera sways ever so slightly, even in battle, almost like the characters are being watched. Moving swiftly on, no one can deny that Persona 5's art style is not unique in its over-the-top and highly stylized visuals. Those who dislike such presentation may say it gives off a feeling of sensory overload, yet there are so many design choices that fly much further under the radar, but can contribute just as much to the overall aesthetic. Something as simple as scrolling through menus is punctuated by visual transitions unique to each option, and even fills the characterization of the main character a little, if you really want to stretch that. It feels good to cycle through these menus, because you're observing a visually appealing alteration to the menu, rather than just seeing a standard RPG list, like in so many others. Other smaller details include when opening the menu in the real world, there is a visual of the protagonist slapping his hand against the TV, whereas in a palace or mementos, along with the visual, we also hear this. Case in point, it feels good to open and click through these menus, and that carries over to the battles as well. It substitutes menus for tying actions to buttons, instead of the formulaic RPG drop-downs within drop-downs within drop-downs. Another small detail is the way that the characters' steps cause a vibrant splash of colour within the palaces, as if to punctuate their role as intruders, and disrupting the natural order of this alternate reality. The next one is more of a personal one. The start of the all-out attack animation is so visually stylized with so many moving parts and sounds I completely missed something. That it was a gunshot, punctuated by the sound of said bullet being fired and hitting the screen, causing it to crack and everything to shatter. Now, I didn't notice that until the start of my New Game Plus, so I can't really tell if this is a subtle design choice compared with the rest of the animation, or if I just have the observational skills of a toddler. Is it both? I'm choosing to believe that it's both. Now again, this is more of a personal thing, and it may become a video at some point, but no promises. Persona 5 is going to age very, very well, like a fine wine or another thing that makes me sound as equally as pretentious. These days, I think that games with unique art styles are going to be remembered more fondly because of their visuals. With a lot of other games going for the photorealistic aesthetic, it's not hard to see them being surpassed in years to come, and see them as bland. Persona 5's style is like the 3D anime CGI without all the jank, and whilst it won't appeal to the masses, it will still be remembered by many as a good-looking game. In terms of the presentation, it can be seen as appealing to Western sensibilities, whilst retaining the Japanese authenticity of its locations. The Shibuya crossing seems like a pretty faithful recreation from what I can tell, and whilst the backstreets of Yongin and the grounds of Shujin may not be accurate representations of the types of places they're situated, but it falls in line with the image of such places that Westerners have been exposed to in other media like anime or manga. Each place in Persona 5 also distinguishes itself, with both visual and auditory methods, and by that I mean Yongin, Shujin and Shinjuku all other variants of background ambience ranging from busy streets to reserved seclusion. Contrasts between certain areas can lead to this kind of unique distinction. For example, Yongen's back streets are dark and drab, hidden and nestled in the bustle of the city. Going from that to Shinjuku is jarring, due to the bold and bright colours of the neon signs littered everywhere they can fit. Now, if I can separate my head from my desk and get back to the original point, Persona 5 isn't just going to age well because of its looks, it's the way it presents those looks to its audience. You can be the prettiest game in the world, but a bland or shitty presentation of the visuals is going to make people snore or angry. It's like the difference between going on a first date in a suit or naked, because even if your game isn't that graphically impressive, a good presentation of those visuals can save it. To end this as succinctly as possible, Persona 5's aesthetics are ace. Not only are they baked into the very identity of the characters, but they are exemplified in every aspect of the game's colour palette, visual themes, and contrasting design and presentation that steals First Class away from any game this year for me.